So I'm going to go ahead and start. My name is Laura Jackson. I am the volunteer coordinator at AHC. Welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Like we are recording this portion of the program. There will be time for Q&A at the end and then also when you're in the breakout room. So if you could mute yourself for now and have the screen on or off, the camera on or off, depending on your comfort level. But thank you so much for coming. All right, so let me share my screen and get started. Okay, so everybody knows that this year is a little bit different, but there is a lot that's the same. And so I wanted to start with that. You are volunteering for AHC's educational programs, and our goals are the same as they always have been. We are going to be supporting the students in their academic learning and in their personal growth. You're a big part of helping provide positive adult support in their life. We're creating a safe space for them to come. It'll be a virtual space in the beginning, but still a safe space for them to come, do their homework, be with their peers, and be with you. We are also, I don't know if you know this, but we always are in touch with the schools. We're able to get students' grades, be in touch with the teachers and the other administrators, and we are continuing to do that and feel like that's very important. So we have a teen tutoring program, which will be virtual this fall. We'll be providing academic support, still be meeting either one-on-one or in small groups with a tutor and 1 or 2 students. We'll be doing that virtually. We will also continue to have workshops for the teens on college and career material, financial literacy. I'm sure our staff will throw in some fun things as well. So again, doing as much the same as we can, just virtually. Our after-school program is our program for elementary school students. This might look a little more different than it does in-person. We're still going to meet 4 days a week, but we're just going to meet for 1 hour instead of 3 hours. We don't want to burn students out on screen time. But we will still have the same kind of activities that we had before. Our staff will plan activities around STEM, math, arts and crafts, so we'll work in some physical fitness, big emphasis on literacy. During our summer camp this year, we had a theme. The theme was empowerment. We actually did that for the elementary school students and the high school students, and we are going to continue that in the fall. It was very relevant to things going on in the world today, went really well, and so we'll continue that. Volunteers, you are going to be supporting the elementary school students either with homework, or if they don't have homework, and we've heard that that might be the case while school is virtual, then with reading. But again, we'll be doing all this virtually through Zoom and through breakout rooms. If you volunteered before, you know that the Capillary Food Bank delivers meals for our students. We did continue that, but the food delivery will be on Mondays, and it'll be food that the children can eat throughout the week. So not the hot meals that you might have seen before, but food that'll be good for the week. And if we have activities that they need supplies for, then we will give that out once a week as well. Okay, so a lot of things the same, but what is different is that we will be working virtually. We're going to start virtually. Many of you have gotten a specific assignment and know the times that you're going to be meeting. And let me just be clear that those times could change. They will change if we go to in-person, most likely, and if schools reopen in person, we'll adjust. So we're just starting with some times that'll work for our students and our staff. And hope that you're able to change if we end up changing, but we'll just be in touch about that kind of stuff. And sorry to be unclear, but I think that's the way of the world, a lot of unknowns. We will be following the Arlington Public School calendar. So for school holidays, we'll follow that. We used to also follow that for weather delays, but since school is virtual, we won't have to worry about the weather this year. So that's one plus. We will decide about moving to in-person programs based on the safety and health of our students, our staff, our volunteers. We may or may not tie that decision into what the public schools do. So we will give you plenty of notice when we're making that decision, and not asking anyone to commit to volunteering in person at this point. All right, so we will be using Zoom this year, and I assume that many of you have used it at least for a meeting like this. So just wanted to talk about some best practices. You can see my lovely AHC virtual background, or you could when we started the meeting. I would encourage all volunteers to think about your own background and to think about your attire. You don't need to be professional, but please be appropriate. So just, you know, if you have a wine bottle or something, you're not going to want to have that when you're tutoring. So if you've been doing a lot of Zoom, you'll already know this, but it's always better to have light in front of you. So shining on your face instead of behind you where people can't see. And you'll also want to think about noise. You are welcome to wear headphones. You should know where your mute button is. You should be ready if your dog starts barking or unexpected noises like that. And you should know that that'll all happen with the students as well. So you'll want to be patient as they have noise issues. Another thing that I've certainly learned about Zoom is that you need to have your device fully charged when you get started. And you might want to ask your students if they have their device charged or if they know where their power cords are or something, because Zoom will be hard to make it through a full meeting, an hour-long meeting. Another best practice is that we're going to put you into breakout rooms with students, but we're still going to be supervising, be available for questions. So staff will be dropping in and out of the breakout rooms. So Zoom is fantastic and has a lot of sophisticated features that, but they're easy to learn. So I'm not going to teach them tonight, but chat, asking for help, sharing your screen. There are a lot of things that you can learn to be more effective as a tutor, and we're not asking you to be experts now. We do hope that you'll come to the practice session next Wednesday if you need practice with some of these skills. And even then, you don't have to be an expert after that meeting, but we do want to get people comfortable with using Zoom. Our students are, and we want you to be too, so that you can work well together. So, all right, I'm gonna turn the presentation over to Melissa. She is the Resident Services Manager at Virginia Gardens.
Hi everyone, welcome. So today we're going to talk about what we expect from the students at home and what we've seen, especially over the summer. So over the summer, we did our first ever virtual summer camp, and we noticed that with our students, some of the families did not have internet access, and I know that that has been a challenge, but we have provided them with resources, and we do help them out in terms of getting internet access so they're able to get on and join the Zoom calls. A lot of our students utilize tablets, phones, and some do have laptops, but that's far and few in between. With that being said, these students share devices with people in the household, especially if they have siblings. So sometimes it's a little bit difficult for them to have that time with that device. So keeping it to an hour, especially over the school year, might be best. APS, unfortunately, doesn't authorize Zoom to be used on the school-issued iPads, which was a challenge, but we do make sure that they're able to get set up on their personal devices. Aside from that, Students having dedicated workspaces in the home, especially during a pandemic with everybody being home and people being out of work and the kids learning from home. It could be possible that these kids don't have a quiet space to work and learn. I know for my center, we send out messages to the parents to stress a quiet learning space, but sometimes that's not only the case, but we have to be realistic of the situation and the circumstances. I know that the virtual world is tough, especially for kids. They're working now with all this screen time with school and now after school. So we need to understand that there are some times where the connection could be poor and there's pauses or glitches, and that's normal and to be expected. I know from personal experience, my internet's gone out a few times, so that does happen and it can be frustrating, but just being patient, it works out really well. The students were thrown into this virtual learning world. So again, their screen time was drastically increased. So it's important to understand that these kids may need breaks, especially coming off of a full school day online. So giving them time to refocus is a good idea. I know over the summer, we dedicated some snack time and read alouds just for the kids to kind of reset and refocus and get ready for program. And then amongst our teens, we saw this mostly, but it's possible that they're not comfortable being on camera. I know that that happens with adults too, and that's totally fine. We do stress their engagement, but they're more comfortable sometimes meeting without their video on. So that could be a trend that you'll see. Laura, you can go to the next slide.
All right.
So student behavior and motivation, we understand that there are times that there can be issues with behavior and motivation. Our staff does provide students with realistic expectations on their behavior during program, but there are times where our kids can become distracted. It's important to just be positive in your approach and try your best to redirect the student to their task. If that's not possible, you have no problem, but to reach out to us, especially if you're on a Zoom call in the breakout rooms, like Laura said, you can ask for help and we can jump right in. We encourage the volunteers, again, to take breaks with the students, especially if you could see that they're getting off topic or they're not really focused on their work. It gives them time away from their rigid schedules. If there are consistent problems, please let the site staff know. We're more than happy to hear that feedback, and then we'll move forward with addressing that issue. We don't want you guys to feel as though you need to handle these problems alone in regards to, you know, being stern with the student or anything like that. We'll take it over from there to make sure that the behavior is addressed. We'll go to the next one, Laura. So aside from all of that, building a relationship, especially over this virtual world, it can be a little bit difficult, but we have seen that our students thrive on positive support from the adults in our programs, whether it's volunteers, tutors, our site staff, our interns. Like I said before, playing games with a student during a break is a good way to add a fun element into the sessions. During breaks, you might also want to take time to get to know each other. This can help build the relationship, but I would just stress to kind of remember personal boundaries for both you and the student. We do have resources for the volunteers, you know, to kind of go through a get to know you game or would you rather games, just things to keep it light and just get to know them on a more personal level. Relationships don't happen overnight with these students, so don't get discouraged if it takes more time than expected. And if you do need support, again, feel free to ask one of us. We do have a good sense of our students and we can offer some advice. Next, Laura. So talking about current events, I definitely saw this with my teens over the summer. So with everything going on, it's likely that they're going to bring up current event topics regarding the pandemic, politics, and social movements. If the student does bring up a topic like this, please make sure that you're aware of your own comfort level. If you are comfortable in hearing their opinions, then feel free to sit there and kind of listen to them vent about what they have to say. And we also have some resources on hand that we can send to you to make sure that we're keeping the conversation appropriate. And if you're not comfortable with that, then you can easily express to the student that you're just not comfortable talking about that topic and kind of just redirect them to their work again. And then just make a note of it and kind of let one of the staff members know that this came up and you felt a little bit uncomfortable, and we'll address it accordingly. You can go to the next slide, Laura.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
There we go.
So when we break into centers for the breakout rooms, the staff will explain their scheduling for their programs. It varies amongst our sites. For our teen programs, though, we are hoping to pair the students one-on-one with tutors, depending on the availability. There are some times that it could be 2 or 3 students, but it will be a small group in regards to tutoring. This will be done in breakout rooms, which you'll experience in a little bit. And you'll be paired once the students and tutors check in with the site staff via Zoom. So everybody gets the same link, they join, and then we'll be able to pair people together and put them into the breakout rooms. And then students, just like when we're in person, they'll be able to give you the access to their student view accounts, which shows the homework assignments that they have, upcoming tests and whatnot. So they'll still be able to keep you in the loop about what's due and what work is upcoming for them. They can also, they're pretty savvy with their screens, so they'll be able to share and let you see what's really going on. Okay, go ahead, Laura. So homework resources. We've gotten some feedback that homework will look a bit different this year. Some kids are getting much less to no homework actually with this new virtual world. And you can find resources for homework though through their school websites. You can use online textbooks or other internet platforms. You can use Google, any of those. And if you are having a hard time with helping a student with their homework, whether it's a math equation or some type of writing assignment, whatever it is, again, you can use that ask for help button and one of the staff members from that site will jump on in and try to help you in the best way that they can. But that will also be explained in our Zoom trainings to come. And alternate activities. Our education team has actually come up with a list of alternate activities and games. This is a good way to kind of fill the time gaps and add a fun element into these sessions. They can be used in the Zoom calls and the resources will be emailed to volunteers for you guys to use at your discretion. If you have any ideas of your own, please feel free to let us know and then we can talk about how to implement those into our programs. There are times where our teens may not have much work to do. We did see this sometimes even in person and they don't seem to be interested in staying for the entire session. But they are expected to stay for at least 30 minutes of the allotted academic time for that site. And if they do leave early, then they have to let a staff member know. So whether that's clicking on the ask for help button and just saying, hey, I'm gonna sign out, I've been here for 30 minutes, we played a game, they didn't have homework, that's totally fine. We just kind of need to be in the loop about that.
All right. I am going to switch to a different screen to share with you. Hopefully I emailed everybody the volunteer agreement, the virtual tutor agreement form. This is similar to forms that you've signed before if you're a returning volunteer, but we did update it just to reflect our virtual world. So I would like everyone to review it and sign it this year, even if you are a returning volunteer. I'm going to go through it and some of the stuff we've talked about. So we ask volunteers to help once a week, but right now we're just asking you to help during our virtual programming with the understanding that the timings might change when we move to in-person. Different volunteers will be comfortable coming back while others won't be able to. So you're just making a commitment to volunteer virtual while we're in the virtual world. But we do hope that you're able to attend every week, and if not, to please communicate with the staff so that they can let the student that you're paired with know and plan accordingly. You're all here tonight, so you are attending the orientation, and I hope that you can join us next week for the Zoom practice session. If you're not able to, then I will record that and send that out as well. And if you're already a Zoom master, then please let me know and teach me more about it. The confidentiality is the same. Arlington is a small community. You might run into people in the grocery store, at your children's school. Just, keep what you learn about any families or children at AHC confidential. Melissa talked about having a positive attitude, and this is just something that we added in. Having a positive attitude is always a great idea when working with students, but working virtually is more challenging. Screens will freeze up, children might be noisy, the children might just completely disappear while you're talking to them because their device ran out. And that can be frustrating because you're making the effort to be there for them. So we hope that you can, to the best of your ability, be positive and roll with it. If you do end up with having problems repeatedly, please talk to the staff. All right, the virtual backgrounds and attire we've already talked about. Next are the boundaries, and the first one is the one that I wanted to talk about in particular, about not asking personal questions of the students. We're not saying that you can never, please build a relationship with them. Ask them, how many siblings do you have? How are things going? What did you do over the summer? But because you're going to have a window into their home, their literal home now through this virtual world, you might see things that you wouldn't have learned otherwise. If you see a ton of beer cans on the sofa behind the student, don't say, oh my goodness, what's going on? Did somebody have a party last night? Like, you can talk to staff if you have concerns that you're seeing that you wouldn't normally see, but don't pry to the students. Oh my goodness, look at how many people are, in your house right now. So it's just a little bit different that you will be seeing their home life, and again, they'll be seeing your home life. So it could be positive and great things that you're learning about each other. But if not, share your concerns with staff and not with the students. Following each other, doing social media together. We never want that. It's always okay if they show you something that they've posted, if that's appropriate, but not for you to follow them outside of program time, if that makes sense. So for returning volunteers, if you have done the mandated reporter training, you do not need to do that again. But if you somehow didn't get that done last year, or if you are a new volunteer, please do this training. It's about an hour. And then there'll be a certificate at the end that you can take a picture of and send to me. So please do that before a program starts. All of our staff, our resident services team is amazing. The site staff will be your main point of contact if you have scheduling issues, questions about your student in particular. But if you have any questions for me, I'm always happy to be a point of contact as well. So this is, all the rest is the same, more or less. So I will send this out again to everyone to make sure that you can sign it. All right, so at this point, that is the end of our formal presentation. If you have questions right now, please, you can unmute yourself and speak up. You can write your questions in the chat.
Hey, Laura, can I bring something up really quick?
Sure. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for coming out tonight. It's great to see you all. I'm Melanie Fike. I'm one of the assistant directors of resident services and oversee the programming at the 6 sites that are represented here, and just wanted to head off maybe some preemptive questions and just to elaborate on Melissa's great presentation about the use of Zoom. So we are using Zoom and have determined it to be a really user-friendly platform, and using some of the security features that have come about recently have found a lot of success with it. The issue with Teams, which is what they use at Arlington Public Schools, is they won't allow us to access that either. So with the student devices, we don't have access to that Teams platform that teachers are using with their students. So that's the other reason that we use Zoom, and the accessibility piece of it, being able to use on different devices. We have also supported our families in receiving devices and loaning them devices on our end, and supporting them in and having other devices. So we're coaching them and working with families on being able to have access to the devices. The phone piece of things comes up sometimes when students are like on the go, and sometimes they're in they're in sessions in different ways. So it does allow for some mobility, but we are really trying to work with them on closing the digital divide and supporting them in having internet access and devices in their homes.
All right, I'm getting, first of all, if anyone is signed in with a phone number and not with your name, could you please change, and you do this under the participants, you'll be able to rename yourself, but that'll help us put you in the right breakout room. So if you could take a minute to do that right now. And then a few people are asking me if they've already turned in different documents, or where's the link to the mandated reporter. I'm going to send everybody an email again after this with a link to that mandated reporter training and a link to the volunteer agreement. If you can't remember if you've signed the volunteer agreement, you can go ahead and sign that again. The mandated reporter, it does take an hour to watch it, so you'll probably remember if you did or didn't do it. So let's see, any other questions for the group? Go ahead, Kathy.
I'm a little bit confused about the Zoom. If we are tutoring the students on Zoom, the students use Zoom with their teachers in the school, but they can't use it, they don't use it with their teachers in the school.
Right.
Okay, so then they have to have two devices if we're going to be doing homework. One device so they can communicate with us, and then the laptop that they got from the school where they have all the school information. So, I mean, from my experience, they're gonna probably be dealing with us by phone, and Zoom on the phone is not the easiest. I mean,
So just speaking from my site specifically, the kids usually do have their own tablets, whether it's a shared one among siblings. So they will have an iPad or a tablet that they use for personal usage and not just their APS. And they've been pretty good with it. There are only a few kids that use it on the phone. And I think that, like I said, with it being an hour, it's a easy amount of time for them to carve out to just use their personal device to kind of connect with us. So we're hoping that it's going to work out that way. But again, it's trial and error because obviously everybody's new to this. So we're hoping that it'll work out.
And we're actually doing some advocacy with APS to be able to have access to it. It is a larger issue that we've seen our partners, other nonprofits have similar issues. So we are working with them. So any advocacy on all ends would be fabulous as well. But it is cumbersome, but we are supporting the students with it as much as possible. And like, Melissa is saying that it went pretty well over the summer.
Just to translate that, AHC is working with other tutoring groups to try to get APS to change it so that we can all use Zoom.
Correct.
Okay, good.
Another question in the chat is, are we accepting new volunteers? And the answer is yes. We still need team tutors, and we still need volunteers to work with the elementary school students in our after-school program. Teenagers are able to work with the elementary school students, but we don't have teens volunteer with other teens. So we are very much still looking for new volunteers. Spread the word to your coworkers and friends. All right.
Question?
Yes.
Hi, I'm Gary Ussery. I'm Jamie Ussery's husband. I was a volunteer at Harvey Hall a few years ago for about 3 years. I haven't done it for a year. I was not a tutor per se. I was a mentor helping with college applications and essays and so on. Is that part of what the scope of what you're looking for here, or is that off the scope really?
So that is a third component of the programming that we offer is our college and career readiness mentoring. We are still recruiting volunteers and still recruiting students, actually. It's been a little bit harder. Our staff member used to actually go into these schools and meet with students, and she hasn't been able to do that since early March. So we probably will need more volunteers for that program, but I'm not sure yet. Right now, we're all set. If that is your particular interest or anyone's particular interest, I will keep your name and most likely reach out to you, but I'm not sure yet.
Thanks.
Somebody's asking if the children pay to participate in our programs. We do have a very small fee. It used to be $100 a year for an elementary school student. And I think that we've even decreased that this year. We don't want that to at all be a barrier to people, but it is a way to get a little bit of buy-in from the families. The children, this is not a drop-in program. So the children sign up and they're committed to being there for the elementary school students 4 days a week and for the teens 2 days a week. So it is the same group of students that we're building a relationship with, getting to know and supporting throughout the school year. Somebody did ask a question about how the elementary school program, how it will work, reading with them. I imagine that the centers are going to be doing it differently, but Zoom is fantastic. In a Zoom room, you can both be looking at the same screen. If you have a Kindle, you can pull up the picture book. You could also just hold a picture book up in front of your camera. There are going to be different ways to do that, and we will, you'll be able to talk to the center staff specifically about what they recommend. And in our Zoom training next week, we'll talk a little bit more about that. For those of you that have not been, sorry, if you haven't been assigned a site yet, I will be getting to that hopefully within the next week. There's still a few centers that are working out the best times for their students to meet, but we definitely do need your help, and we'll be in touch about that soon.
For activities for grade school kids, actually there are tons of worksheets as well that are free and online.
Mm-hmm.
And because Zoom allows you to share screen, especially if you have a tablet as well, then you guys can write together on the worksheet too if you want to do writing as well as reading. Right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And our staff, I think Melissa alluded to this, but we're going to have a list of resources. Maybe she talked about that in terms of teen programming, but we're going to have it in terms of the elementary school programming as well, so that there are things that you can draw upon when you're working with the students. So somebody asked if you're going to be assigned to the same site as last year, and we certainly hope that that works out for you, but if you prefer to switch to a different site, let us know. But our assumption is you want to work with the same students you worked with before.